everybody. Thank you for joining our podcast, Moms on the Move. I'm Jen Wills.
And I'm Jennifer Stesk.
We have Leisa Johnson here. She is a lender, but she is also our sponsor and one of our first sponsors. So thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So Leisa and I go back. As everyone knows, I'm a realtor, and Leisa is a lender I've been working with forever. And we had a meeting yesterday at work, and it was so helpful and important that I felt like, even if you're not in the market right now, honestly, this is just a conversation to have, because we're going to go over just like basics about interest, what that means, inflation, cost of living, all of these things that are affecting us directly right now. So obviously in my industry, in your industry, this is like front and center with the stuff we're dealing with every day. Interest rates are going up, all the things, inventory's down, it's a seller's market. We're dealing with a lot of stuff right now that makes it kind of different than any other year we've been through.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. So where should we start? We have so many papers in front of us.
Yeah,
guys.
we do. We have a lot of papers. The key thing right now, I think that's really important, is everyone keeps hearing inflation, inflation, inflation. What does inflation mean? Basically, that means that we have too much money, huge demand, and not enough supply.
Yes.
So prices on everything are going up. Your groceries, cars, houses, everything else. And until we get inflation under control, it's going to continue to rise. And this trickles over into your mortgage rates. So we have a Federal Reserve meeting next week. What does that mean for all of us? Oh, they're raising rates. Yes, they are raising rates, but they're raising the federal bank rate.
Which is totally different.
Totally different than the mortgage rates. So what that means is when we get inflation under control, the historical data shows that the mortgage rate response is it's going to come back in line. It is incredibly unprecedented right now what has happened with mortgage rates. They have literally gone up almost 2% in 2 months. That's decreasing people's buying power. If you were pre-approved 2 months ago, you need to check in with your lender because you need to check your qualifications. So as we get inflation under control, then the mortgage rates towards the end of the year should come back, and all the historical data support that. So that's number one, is we need to understand what that means. Then you hear recession. Well, historically, when we're in a recession, what that means is that the economy has had a downturn for 2 quarters. It hasn't happened yet, but that's 2 quarters. So in a recession, again, the historical data shows interest rates stay low, housing demand still stays high, and we'll get through it.
Right.
So sometimes when there's negative things in the economy, that kind of helps your interest rates.
Right. Yeah. Yesterday at the meeting, you made a comment like, sometimes you hear this, which you associate with being bad. She's like, but that's a good day for me. I mean,
sadly,
but it is, because then it's all like a balance, check and balance. So, we have seen clients, and you were talking when you came in about someone who was under contract with not a local lender, but then had to call you last night and realized now she can no longer afford the home because of the interest rate hike. So to give you an idea of how much it's increased, back in, when were rates about 3.8? 2
January.
months ago? January,
February.
Yeah. So let's say 3 months ago, the rates were at like a 3.8. And for a $300,000 house, without taxes and all that, your payment would be $1,410. Currently, right now, we're looking at more of like a 5. So this data is not even what it would be today, because this is at a 4.6. So not even, you're still looking at $150 more a month. And that's probably not even accurate where you'd be today. So
here we have the 5%. So basically,
okay, got it.
It jumps from $1,410 to $1,610. That's $200.
$200 more a month just based on the interest rate. And again, a lot of people were talking about like, oh my gosh, we're up to 5s. 5s really isn't that bad. We just kind of got spoiled with hearing rates that were in the 3s. So I think the market is trying to correct itself and get back to like this, but in comparison to where we were and what people were hearing, it's a shock.
It's a shock because not only rates have been historically low for such a long time, the new buyers, the millennials, this is all they've ever known.
Correct. Yes.
I mean, over the last, 15 years, they were 15, 20. Now they're our main buyers. That's our main marketplace. 2.5 to 4.5 is really all they've ever known. They didn't know the times of 7 to 8.5. They didn't know the times of 12 to 18% back, like all of our parents have talked about.
Yeah.
So we're spoiled.
Yeah.
And so that's why everyone's kind of freaking out because this is all they've known.
Right.
And this is what they expect.
Our first house was, I think it was 2009 we bought. And we were at like 6s, I believe. And then when we got down, Chris, my husband is like the king of trying to chase a refinance. Like he makes it a game. He's like, oh, I think it's better today. Let's go refinancing. And I'm like, you have to pay to refinance, Chris.
Well, my kids are first-time buyers, and they haven't bought, but they see it as just too much right now. They just got married. They're ready. They're looking for a home. First off, they're too expensive. Second, they can't find anything.
And that's hard. And then you also have to run the data. And I'm a numbers person. I'm an in-writing person. Is they think it's too expensive, but then rents.
I know. Rent has gone up because
rents are crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the people renting and leasing their homes and all of this, they know what they can get right now. And I've recently have sold several rental properties, keeping in mind that they're already overpaying for the rental properties. So for them to make a profit, you have to think about that. They are going to be jacking up the already jacked up price to make, a profit and make this worth it for them. So it's a really tough situation to be in because it's hard to advise people to rent, but then a lot of people, first-time home buyers, people were just like, life happens and you have multiple kids. They don't have these huge down payments to make. So, it's been a tricky thing, and seeing the inventory has been kind of eye-opening. You have one of the charts here, and it was, I won't say the numbers, but it was basically in comparison to 2019, it was almost...
Well, just the numbers, and not even that, but even like the 07, 08 crash. Basically, what you had in 07 and 08 is one, mortgage rates and programs, no income, no asset, no verification. People that were unqualified buying multiple houses crash. You had foreclosures. You had scrupulous appraisers inflating values. So you had a completely different housing market at that time. Right. So now when you hear people on the news saying housing bubble, housing boom, whatever, we're not comparing apples to apples because right now, back then, we had over, an inventory of 3 million unused houses. Now we don't have enough houses for people wanting houses. No. So those don't think that, this is all going to crash and I'm going to go find a flip. It's not going to happen. Right. I mean, in our meeting yesterday, we talked, it's going to take 5 years for inventory to catch up.
Yep.
So with those kind of things in mind, you have to be smart. And the thing I always tell people, first-time home buyers or people moving to the area, use a local lender. I mean, I'm biased. And, Fairway Mortgage, we do a great job. And there's a lot of great lenders in Greenville. A local lender.
She does do a really great job.
Thank you. A lot of local lenders, we know the market. We know what's going on. We know the levels of appreciation. A good lender gives you their cell phone number.
It's more personal. You care. You look out for us.
Yeah.
And the key thing is it's about families. We're not paid to lock loans. But what you want to do is, your son is look at the numbers in writing. Get it on paper. Understand what your mortgage payment is. Understand what an interest rate is. Understand how you make your payment. Understand the tax write-off. I mean, if you're, a 30-something making a chunk of change because you're making good wages now, you might need the tax write-off. So there's a lot of benefits in getting educated because you had to have a point A to get to a point B. And again, these are things that, come down to working with a good lender.
Yeah.
The better.coms, I'm going to say it, or the lower.coms, the .coms. The .coms aren't here. They're a call center.
Yep.
They may not even understand the program. They may not understand the options. Just in our communities, there's some really good down payment assistance programs that are amazing for folks.
Yeah.
They might not have the money, but they have good credit scores. They have great jobs, and they just need a little help.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things that your local lenders can do, just like your local real estate agents.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to go to a .com real estate agent to try to buy a house in the upstate.
Yeah.
You have to work with reputable people who are going to teach you and care about your family. And that's the thing I'm kind of passionate about, as you know.
Yeah. And sit down with us.
Absolutely.
Because I know nothing about this. So this is an amazing podcast for me. But my youngest son went through this, and they sat down and talked with him and explained everything to him to be able to make the best decision. And that's what you do.
Well, and a lot of times, you hear, well, I'm pre-qualified for, let's say $500,000. But are you comfortable in that payment? You're the one responsible. We can close and you can be in this house all day, but is that going to make you house poor, which you don't want to be? Mm-hmm. Or, are you going to be comfortable in that monthly payment? So a lot of times you work backwards with clients, which is very important because you might be comfortable making a $1,400 a month payment and no more than that. So what home price can we lock you in and start searching for based on interest rates, your monthly payment that you're comfortable with, kind of start backwards?
Well, the key thing, what I always tell people is you got to kind of look at the smaller picture. And I always say, what's your ideal monthly payment? And they'll say $1,000 or they'll say $2,000. Then you have to work into those figures of it could be the $500,000 house or it might be the $150,000 house.
Yeah.
Within a mortgage scenario, you look at debt to income. And whenever you hear DTI, what does that mean? That means lenders take your gross income. I mean, and that's before taxes.
Right.
And we determine what is the mortgage payment going to be? What's your current car payment? Credit cards, student loans. That's another thing.
Is that factored in?
Absolutely. It's sad to say, even if they're deferred, we're required to calculate a payment.
Okay.
So all that thing comes together, and then it, usually it's about a 45% debt to income, meaning that 45% of your gross income is being used to pay all your debts, including now this new house payment. There are some loan programs that will go higher. Your FHA loans, your VA loans will go higher. Exceptional credit scores, they'll allow you outside the box. We have seen right now a lot of lenders, including us, we're kind of tightening the reins. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they're kind of tightening the reins on their approvals of going over that. It's all about the strength of the file. How much money do you have saved? It's all about the risk of the loan, and that determines how it's going to get approved.
Right.
So that's what debt to income means.
Yep.
And that's what your lender should walk you through. And then you break down your monthly payment, how is it made, and things like that. So that's kind of where we go in that. And, again, seeing it in writing is key.
And then a lot of people who are self-employed, you were saying yesterday.
Yes, the self-employed folks. Self-employed people, it's amazing because what you want to do is when you're self-employed, you get a lot of write-offs. And that's awesome. But in my world, I can't use but what's on your tax returns.
Right.
So if you make $200,000 and you have a lot of great write-offs like your car, meals and entertainment, supplies, expenses, contractors, and your income's only 40, I only get to use 40. But there are certain items like depreciation. You can add that back. So a lot of times I'll work with accountants going, is this going to be a one-time write-off or can we put it in depreciation?
Right.
So again, it goes back to communicating. And another little niche, if you're a self-employed person, is if you've been self-employed for 5 years, I'm only required to use 1 year tax return, the most recent one. So you might want to wait to write off a bunch of stuff for next year if you're looking to buy a house this year. So there's lots of nuances. Again, communicating.
Or even like deferring your tax until you get the house?
You can't defer tax returns. If you file an extension, you can't. Yeah, you can't be delinquent on a federal debt.
Okay.
And basically, you're delinquent on a federal debt if you didn't pay your taxes on Monday the 18th.
Right. But if you had already filed an extension.
If you filed an extension and are making payments.
Got it. Okay.
But you cannot say, oh, I haven't done my tax return for this year, then we can't use it. And then you're still technically delinquent on federal debt if you filed an extension because they're going to be charged interest. You're just delaying the inevitable. So from a mortgage point, it's tax day.
Yep.
And it has to be done. And there's a lot of nuances, and we don't need to go into all of that, like tax transcripts and things that are required from a lender side. But again, it goes back to getting it in writing with whoever you're working with, a checklist of the documents that are needed, because you should not be nickel and dime. It's not rocket science what I do. And again, understanding what you're getting yourself into.
Right.
That's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously you were saying like if you don't have a crystal ball, you wish you did.
Oh God, do I ever.
But based on the historical data that you did provide us, you would be comfortable to say based on that it's possible the interest rates might drop. Did I say that nicely?
It's possible.
It's possible we might see a decrease.
Yeah. I saw a article yesterday, and I actually posted it on Facebook. My company does an amazing blog. It's home.com, and they have so many good sources. It's not biased towards us. It's just industry stuff.
Yep.
Like tomorrow, we have an industry call called State of the Industry. And it's all people from, the NAMB, Mortgage Bankers Association, Housing Association, all these experts coming together. And we're going to talk about what's going on.
Yeah.
I did see a chart yesterday from like 8 different sources, from realtors to mortgage bankers to Clippingers to 4.5 to 5.25 is where they see fourth quarter 2022.
Fourth quarter. Okay.
That's what they see. It's not my crystal ball. I wish, are we going to be back in the 3s from all the data? No.
Okay. So we're probably staying put from where we are right now, most likely.
The middle of the chart was 4.8.
Yep.
4.7.
So we're, okay.
That was the middle of the chart yesterday. And again, are we going to get back in the 3s and 2s? No. Waiting's not going to help.
Right. Okay. So
Waiting is not going to help.
That's just exactly what,
So, and understand, I don't know a thing about any of this, so when I ask these questions.
Please, no, this is awesome.
But do you see it settling down where we will have more inventory? Is that something that you can look at or predict or understand or talk about? Because it is very, very low. Because people are moving from different states into states with different rules and different laws and different everything, and they're moving around to what suits them. So even in my own little neighborhood, we've had people move from those outer states have come in for different reasons. So and grabbing up whatever they can and paying full price.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah.
So do you see that settling down, or whether there will be more inventory, or does that go with your numbers as to when that happens?
It's outside of the mortgage rates per se. It goes back to the supply chain. And as we said, they're saying 5 years. Builders can't get the supplies. Builders can't keep up. Builders are trying to get the land. It's just, a snowball effect.
Yeah, it is.
It's all, effect. And no one could have predicted COVID. And then, then COVID happened. And then the lumber mills closed down. And then you have bricks, you have concrete, you have semiconductors, you have microchips, you have, the Ukraine war. Wow. The Ukraine war is spilling over into our issues because they are suppliers of neon. What do you need neon for? Semiconductors. What do semiconductors go into? All your appliances. So it's just
everything. It goes from bricks to cat food.
Formula,
everything.
So we're feeling it so much as a family with our boys, and I'm sure we would feel it without our 3 boys. But just when I get the groceries, I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? Like, I just bought an apple and goldfish, and it's $35.
No, I know.
So, I was like,
you come out with one bag
through their snacks and like the milk and the fruit, and we're trying so hard to like cook at home, but
Chick-fil-A. How does a family afford Chick-fil-A?
That's a big Friday night out.
That's what it's crazy.
True. It's just, I think, everyone is just in the same boat, and we're all at this like unknown period right now. And it's like, it's very stressful. It's very stressful on families, and it's hard when, as an agent, people are directing you a certain way, and they're like, it's going to go down in September, and like, now's a great time to buy. I feel like my advice is always do what makes you very comfortable, and where you have you are fine in your decision. If you want to move and you need another bedroom, it's probably a good decision to make your family more comfortable. If you think that you're going to live there for 1 year and make a ton of money on it, I'm not sure that that's going to happen. So, I mean, there's so many things to think about, but essentially it's, what are you comfortable with? And just be so patient. Like, that's what I always have to tell people right now. I'm like, you have to be patient. We have to close our eyes and imagine Christmas when you're in front of your new tree. For the next few months, it's just going to suck. Like, we have to.
And we're not used to any of that. We're not used to being patient.
We're not.
We go out, we get exactly what we want. It pops up and we've got it.
Yeah.
And this is foreign to us.
It is.
And you have so many different generations with different expectations. So then you have that conflict and that debate and that, like, we don't understand those folks and they don't, and understand this thing.
Yeah.
And so it's just, it is unnerving. And the one word I'm so sick of hearing is unprecedented.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the new normal.
It is.
And we have to roll with the punches. It's incredibly stressful. Like when I walked in here today, I was really stressed actually. Just because there's so much that is out of our control. And if you're like me, I like to be in control of everything.
Well, and then you get scared.
You get scared.
I've been scared.
Yeah.
And fear is paralyzing.
Right. And I worry about my kids and I worry about all of those things. But yeah, it's fear.
It is. It's the constant worry. And we always say it too. It's like, if our kids weren't in the picture, it would be a completely different worry, but we're worried for them too, just in terms of like everything right now. And
just even education, how far behind are they?
Oh, I know.
Or vaccination, vaccinate, don't vaccinate, do this, do that, do that. I mean, it's.
I know. It's been a lot. And I hope that people understand the importance truly of like, even if you don't use us, but you should.
Absolutely.
You need people that you can call on a Saturday, and you need people that are going to sit down and explain this stuff to you and explain that if you don't lock in, what does that mean for you?
Yeah.
What does it mean if your rate goes up by 0.5%? Or, how much do we have to decrease your search by? And then find an agent who's going to explain, you might look up to 300,000, but with this current market, I'm not going to search up to 300,000 because you're going to have to go over to win a contract. So let's not even put that tease out there and look at those homes. Let's look at the ones that are up to 270, up to 260. Unfortunately, that's just where we are. And we don't know, unfortunately, we don't know where this is going. But I think saying like, keep waiting.
I think the key thing, back to the fear, back to being scared, back to the unknown, is, again, sometimes when you understand it and you see it in writing, and I think knowledge is power.
Totally.
Is understand it, get it in writing. So then you're going, okay, I see it. Okay, now I get it.
That would be me.
And like
versus,
what I loved so much with all her stuff yesterday, and I know no one can see this, but she has like just years worth of data that she provided us. So, it showed you just kind of in the past, again, when this happened and we were in a recession, what happened here and the cause and effect of these things. So I actually felt a lot better leaving our meeting yesterday. I felt like, okay, this might take a while.
It could.
But, so anyway, it's just all about preparing and understanding what's coming. If you're prepared
I think that, and the other thing that's also frustrating, I think, across the board is, and I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole, but again, is look at data. Don't just follow opinions.
Yes.
Because depending on which news cycle you watch, you're going to get something completely different. So again, is see it in writing, and your lender, your financial planner, the numbers are the data. Yes. The data can't change. You can skew the data based on your opinion. But when you look at the actual numbers of the cause and effect, you look at the stock market numbers, you look at the bond market, you look at all the data. What is the data showing you? and understanding it. You might not understand all of it, but you're going to understand the personal impact to you. And as long as you understand that, that might take off some of the weight of the stress.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I want to touch on super quick, we talked about yesterday, is understanding pre-qual and pre-approval.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of lenders are going to love that I'm telling you this. A pre-qual, basically, you can fill out an application. You can put in that you make $200,000 as a self-employed person, and you can put all that stuff. Well, on paper, you're pre-qualified for that $1 million house. Yay.
Yeah.
And then you turn in your information, and all of a sudden you're not pre-qualified.
Right.
Pre-quals don't mean anything.
Yeah.
They, Quicken.com, you put in Rocket Mortgage. I can buy a house. But can you?
Right.
I don't know.
So many other factors that go into
maybe not.
Even the underwriting process. Like you don't want these things to like blow up a contract. You want the information up front.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference in local and the .coms.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get that one-on-one. I already feel better. I already feel like I've learned something. You're not going to get that just going anywhere to anybody.
And the only other thing I want to touch on real quick is I was talking to someone, I gave them your name last night, but
thank you.
She was saying like, well, should we move to Greenville before we find a job? Or, and I said, I was like, so I definitely want you to talk to your lender, but basically consistency is super important. So while you're looking, you don't want to do a job change. While you're under contract, you don't want to change jobs. You don't want to go buy a new car. You want to keep it like steady Eddie. And after you close on that house, you go get that job, you go get that car. But through that process, you want to see a consistency, and that's what matters.
Totally. And the other thing is 2 different things. If you're local and you're thinking of moving, keep your job.
Yep.
But the key is if you're moving from out of state to here, lenders would require you to have a job here because you can't commute from Connecticut.
Okay, so let me touch on that then. So if someone is coming from Boston and they are in a trade industry, if there's not a lapse in the job and they get a job immediately here, is that okay? Or do you want to see it still?
Well, the key is one, how are they paid? Hourly, salary, commissioned, contract. So those are questions that we have to figure out first, and how to make that move happen. Trade to trade. I mean, a month lapse, you got 2-week notice, this, not a big deal.
Okay.
Salaried employees moving, like doctors, I have a couple doctors moving here. We're able to close them just with an offer letter.
Okay.
They don't even have to start their job.
Okay.
But we have to the offer letter can't be contingent on any of the parameters for their employment. Another one we have is I had a slew of self-employed automotive people. Well, you can't be self-employed in Washington State and move here and this be your primary residence because you have no history of how your self-employment would work here. But how you structure it, second home.
That's what we just did on our
second home.
Yeah.
So basically, before you quit your job and move here and think you're going to get a house, talk to your lender because we might have to do it as a second home. Because you can do it as a second home because we're going to base it on your employment in Boston, and then after that we'll continue the conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to definitely.
So there's a lot of nuances, and again, it just all goes back to anything in life. You just got to communicate, and we're not always good at that.
Well, I hope we didn't bore you to death today, but I think this was honestly like helpful. And again, just knowledge is
power,
and it's going to help you through these like weird times. But hearing from you, and I think don't you think that was
it was
helpful?
good? Yeah. Be a little less afraid.
Right.
It's going to be okay.
Right.
Like you said.
It's going to be all
right.
Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. And we want to thank our sponsor, Leisa Johnson.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. So Leisa Johnson with Fairway Mortgage. Where can they find you?
I'm here locally. You can look me up at, or my email is leisa.johnson@fairwaymc.com. My direct line, which is my cell, is 864-918-1491. Give me a call, shoot me a text. Would love to talk to you about your situation, your kid's situation, interest rates, historical data. But again, just thanks for your time.
Yeah. I also want to thank Nest Realty, Blackacre Law, Parham Archenhold, Body Works, Browning Studio, and Southern Girl Chic. So thank you, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you next time.